Good afternoon, everybody. Given the place we're at in New South Wales in our response to the pandemic, I'm pleased to say that following the receipt of health advice today and every day since we had the outbreak of the Avalon cluster, that New South Wales will be easing restrictions from midnight on Friday. So from 12:01 this Friday morning, New South Wales will be easing restrictions. Firstly, in relation to household gatherings, you'll be able to welcome 30 people into your household, including children. So in total, you'll be able to welcome 30 people into your household from Friday morning. In terms of outdoor gatherings, you'll be able to have a picnic or a barbecue or something of that effect up to 50 people in an outdoor setting. In relation to weddings and funerals, you'll be able to have 300 people so long as they comply to the 4 square metre rule. So one person per 4 square metres, but up to 300 for a wedding or a funeral. For all other hospitality, all other corporate events and other places of gathering, including places of worship, it'll be 1 per 4 square metre without any cap, any maximum cap. So all places of worship, corporate events, hospitality venues will be 1 per 4 square metres from this Friday. In addition to mask wearing, we will say that you will need to wear a mask on public transport. You will need to wear a mask if you are a frontline hospitality worker facing the public. But in relation to retail and in relation to the public, in relation to retail staff, in relation to the public, we recommend a mask when you can't guarantee social distancing, but it will not be compulsory if you're going retail shopping or if you're a retail worker, or obviously if you're attending a hospitality venue. However, if you are catching public transport, you are going to a place of worship, so whether you go to a church, a synagogue or a mosque, you will need to wear a mask, and that is important for us to protect those most vulnerable, but also to accept that in those indoor settings you have the highest risk. Now, we also appreciate mask wearing is compulsory in places like gaming rooms, and of course if health provides advice in relation to aged care facilities or our health facilities, that's up to health, and that can change depending on the risk associated with that health precinct or that health facility. But generally speaking, as far as the public's concerned, you should wear a mask. It's mandatory to wear a mask on public transport, no questions asked. It's mandatory to wear a mask in a place of worship, and it's also mandatory to wear a mask if you're a front-facing hospitality worker, and it's also mandatory to wear a mask if you are in a gaming venue. But outside of that, we strongly recommend people wear masks if they're vulnerable, if they can't guarantee social distancing, and we also in particular ask supermarkets and other places to consider what their staffing policy might be around masks. We're not suggesting it's compulsory because the contacts there are casual, people are in and out, but that is a critical issue. Also, I should add in relation to that, that if you are attending a beauty salon or a hairdressing salon where there's prolonged periods where you're there for hours, both the staff and the patrons also mandatorily need to wear a mask. Now, I also want to stress that the health advice that's been provided is that in all likelihood, if we continue the current trends, if we continue to see 0 to low case numbers and reasonable rates of testing, that in 2 weeks' time, all the settings that we've currently described as being subjected to the 4 square metre rule will revert to the 2 square metre rule. So it means that if you have a wedding or a funeral or any other event, you'll be able to subscribe to the 2 square metre rule. That includes hospitality venues and anywhere else where there's the 4 square metre rule is in place. We'll be able to revert to the 2 square metre rule. We believe in about a fortnight. We're not there yet, and the reason is that whilst we've had 2 14-day cycles of the Northern Beaches not having any community transmission, in southwest and western Sydney we've gone through 1 cycle of no community transmission, and the other cycle will be completed in about 2 weeks, after which time we can make sure that we've ticked all the health boxes and we revert back to 2 square metres. It's really important this time of year that all of us are thinking about where we're going to work from. We want to encourage people to work in their workplace so long as they do it in a COVID-safe way. We want to encourage people to go about their normal lives as much as possible. We want businesses to resume their activities so long as it's all done in a COVID-safe way. We don't know when the pandemic's going to end, but what we do know is that we have to live with it, and New South Wales has always taken the very balanced approach of making sure we keep the virus under control, but that we also make sure that we keep our economy as open as possible, and that's really important moving forward. So I'm pleased to say the restrictions will ease from midnight this Friday, but we also consider the high likelihood, the high probability of restrictions easing within 2 weeks further, going from 4 square metres to 2 square metres. We're sending this message out today so that businesses can be prepared, so that businesses can know that in a couple of weeks' time they will feel increased trade and be able to plan for the year ahead. But I also want to please stress that with the 2 square metre rule coming into effect in all likelihood in 2 weeks' time, we will also be looking at compliance. Do we need to increase fines to make sure businesses are being as vigilant as ever? Because our strategy will only work if people do the right thing. What we're trying to do is prevent a super spreading event. We have the most robust quarantine system in Australia, but we know that there's no such thing as a perfect system, and the risk of an outbreak is always there. But we need to make sure that if one does occur, that we don't create a super spreading event by having all these measures in place. So please know that if you're catching public transport, if you're going to a place of worship, if you're a hospitality worker in front of house, if you're going to a hairdresser or a beautician, you have to wear a mask. But in all other settings, it will be a strong recommendation, especially if you can't guarantee social distancing, especially in indoor spaces. I want to take this opportunity, as the Minister for Health will do, to thank the public for really cooperating with us, for working with us. Your support, your compliance, working together has ensured New South Wales is where it is, and we look forward to starting off the working year and the school year in a positive light by easing these restrictions, ensuring that we're COVID safe, but also using the lessons of last year as we deal with the pandemic moving forward.